Because I've been gone for the last 3 weeks, and I've been over in Africa. I went to two different countries. I went to Sierra Leone and to Nigeria. And a lot of times we don't know where these places are. They're just names. We know they're in Africa, but we don't really know where exactly they are. So what I've done is I've got a map here. You got to pay attention today, dude. Okay, that'll show us where they are. Let's see. This is Sierra Leone, right there. It's a little bitty country right there, but it's a very important country, and we'll find out why in a minute. I went to Nigeria as well. Went to 2 locations in Nigeria and 1 in Sierra Leone. When I went to Sierra Leone, we're opening up a new institute there in a city called Koidu City. So this was their first session of classes. And then in Nigeria, I went to Apomu and Ibadan, and I've been to both of those before. So the first stop was Koidu City. And this is, oh wow. And I hope y'all can see better than it's back there. Yeah, turn off the lights up here. There we go. Can y'all see better? A little bit. This is me getting picked up at Freetown International Airport. Freetown is the capital of Sierra Leone, and I got picked up by John Olugbami, who I've traveled with before, and this is the pastor who is now the head of the council, Micah Olali, the head of the council in Koidu. I was supposed to get there at about 5 o'clock. My flight from New Jersey to Brussels, because I went San Antonio, Newark, Brussels to Freetown. And my flight into Brussels was an hour late. And unfortunately, I had 2 hours in between layover there. But an hour to get off of a huge airplane and through all of the things that you have to go to and catch the tram to the other terminal and all of that, it was going to be cutting it very close. And so I got over there, and in Brussels, this is going to sound bad. In Brussels, they are extremely racist. I'm going to just put it that way. All of the flights from Africa are out of a totally different terminal than anybody else. They send you off by yourself to this other terminal that is a second or third class terminal compared to all of the rest of the airport. And so I got there, and as is normal, over there, it is total chaos. And so I go to the gate where my flight's going to be, and people are all over the place. I managed to get up near the front of the line, got on the plane, and sat there for 3 hours. 3 hours. There was apparently some kind of a problem with the landing gear or one of the sensors in the landing gear, and so we were stuck there for an extra 3 hours on the plane. So that was a lot of fun, but it got me to Freetown about 3 hours late. So I was supposed to get there about 5. I got there about 8 o'clock. And so it was dark when I got there, and it was chaos getting there. And then it's a 4-hour drive from Freetown to Koidu City. And it was dark, and it was raining. And so we drove on to Koidu City. Go ahead. And this is where I stayed. I stayed at this guest house. It was Uncle Ben. It's called Uncle Ben again. And we were supposed to be staying at Uncle Ben's hotel. And Uncle Ben had apparently sold this hotel about 7 years ago, and they hadn't changed the name until last year, and it became the Lion's Mane or something like that. So we got there. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and we're trying to find it, and we go in, and it was totally unacceptable. There was no water. One of the rooms had no electricity. It looked like the rooms were half finished. It was not they had gone and examined rooms and found us a place to stay, but they were going to put us in a totally different section than what they showed them when they were showing them the rooms. And so we couldn't stay there. There was no way that we could stay there. And so we started looking for another place at 2:00 in the morning, okay, in Africa, in this in Koidu city. And fortunately, the third place we went, which was a new place that Uncle Ben had built, was a place where we could stay, and it was very close to the place we were teaching. And so God is good. God provided everything that we needed. It was a nice place. We had hot water. We had a toilet seat, right? And we were supposed to have internet. However, like everything over there, sometimes you do, sometimes we don't. But it was close enough that we could just walk to the church that we were teaching at, which was really a blessing, because we didn't have to rely on a driver showing up to come and bring us and take us back. It was a 5-minute walk. It was no big deal. It was really close. And everywhere we went, go ahead, everywhere we went, we walked. This is John, and that's Pastor Olani, and that's me. And we're walking down the street of Koidu City, very near a large mosque. There's a lot of mosques in Sierra Leone. It's a lot of Muslims in Sierra Leone. There's churches everywhere as well, but the mosques are much bigger than the churches. This next picture is a picture of the church that we were teaching at, and it's got the sign out there, the World Hope Bible Institute sign, and all of that kind of stuff. And like I said, it was a 5-minute walk, and we had to go down this alley to get to this church. And this is John teaching in the church. We had 41 students. Okay, we're supposed to have 50, but this is the first session for them. I mean, they don't even have a count. They didn't even at that point didn't even have a council yet. When we go the first time, it's mostly exploratory kind of thing. We go, we show them what we do, what we've got, and they decide whether or not they want to continue on. I've never had one that did not want to continue on as we go. And John was teaching here. He was teaching hermeneutics. The first two classes that we teach are soteriology, which is the doctrine of salvation, and hermeneutics, which is biblical interpretation. How do you properly interpret the Bible? And John was teaching hermeneutics here. And then I taught the next one, soteriology, which is the doctrine of salvation. Okay, and it's, I don't stand behind the pulpit when I'm teaching or behind the lectern. I walk around a lot because I'm trying to keep them engaged. And I don't care if y'all stay engaged when I'm preaching. No, but I walk around and I walk down in between them and everything to make them pay attention to what I'm teaching. And at some point, while I was teaching, I was talking about making a point about Jesus. Go ahead, about Jesus washing the disciples' feet. And so I'm down on my knees. This guy here in the first, he was kind of dozing off a little bit, so I used him as an example, because it was in the afternoon and it's hot, and so anyway, and I was down there on my knees explaining Jesus washing the disciples' feet and how we should do the same and what it meant and all of that kind of stuff. The students, they are very excited about being there. Okay, they come from all around. It's really refreshing to go there, because these guys, they'll do anything to get there. And this one guy, go ahead with the movie, he had to bring his kids. And he sat there with his kids the whole time, all 3 days, because that was the only way that he could make it. The kids were great. They never made a sound. And he just sat there and did all this. I don't know, is the sound not working? Did you unmute the PC? Because we need it in a minute. Okay, is it coming? I mean, did it come through at all? Okay. Well, after we spent, where are you? Okay, that's not the next picture. After the 3 days, they decided, yes, they're going to go on. And this is a picture of their council. The council is responsible for all of the administrative type things, all of the advertising, all of the logistical things in country while we're there. And so this is their council, and they're the ones who are going to be putting everything together for the next 4 years as we go through all of the different classes. This is a group picture of the group that we taught there in Sierra Leone outside of the church. You can probably find me in there somewhere. I'm right here in case you didn't notice. Huh? Yes, it's the one with the gray hair. Okay. So anyway, we had a great time with them. This next picture is the bus station. This is the bus station in Koidu City. And the reason I bring this up is I told you John met me at the airport. John was actually coming from Liberia because he had been there and he had taught for a week there in Liberia. And then he took the bus and showed up in Freetown, and he had to go back to Liberia in order to fly to Nigeria because, anyway, things got rearranged and all kinds of stuff. So he ended up having to go back to Liberia to fly to Nigeria. So he had to go back to the bus station at 5 o'clock in the morning to catch a bus to get to Liberia, the border, before it closed at 5 o'clock in the evening. So not only did I teach there, but I also preached. And go ahead. There we go. There's the sound. Okay, so this is part of their worship time. And the thing I really love, the reason I kept this one in there is because of this little boy here. He's got a balloon. He's got a gold balloon that he is playing with the whole time that they're singing, and he's throwing it up in the air and all that kind of. He's just having a blast as he is there with the people. This is just part of their worship time, their singing time, and they really get into it. This week or that week, that was just last Sunday. No, that was 2 Sundays ago. 2 Sundays ago, they were having a special women's ministry day. And so the ladies had some special music. Go ahead. They came marching in, singing. Oh yeah, they are dressed up. They get dressed up for church. And the hats are something else. John finally made it into the church. Okay, and that kept going for quite a while, but I figured that was enough of it for y'all. The next picture, after I finished preaching, one of the ladies is here just giving the announcements and that kind of thing as well. Then the next picture, I'm going to have to give you a little bit of history on. Go ahead. This is a place. This is actually about this plaza here. This roundabout is about halfway. The hotel is right here, and the church is right down an alley right there. And I don't know how much of the history of Sierra Leone y'all know. Sierra Leone was a very violent place. Koidu City is the location where there is a diamond mine. It is a huge, huge diamond mine. Matter of fact, we're walking down the street, and John asked Micah, he says, "What is that hill over there?" And I looked at John, I said, "That's not a hill." I said, "That's what they've dug up for the diamond mine." It is huge. And about every 4th or 5th business that you see in Koidu is a diamond exchange or a gold exchange. They're everywhere. And they had a civil war in, I think it was from 2000 to 2002, 2003, in that time frame. And it was a very bloody civil war. Have y'all anybody ever seen the movie Blood Diamond? Okay, that's Koidu. Blood Diamond is about Koidu City in Kono State. And the story that they tell is fictional, but it's pretty representational of what happened. And this roundabout here, this intersection, was probably one of the most violent places in the nation. It was called the place of the guns. And after the war was over and some time had gone by, the people were like, we don't want this to be known as the place of the guns. And so they built this monument there, and they put this big star on top of it so that now it's known as the place of the star instead of the place of the sun, but the guns. But it was a very difficult time for them, and they're still dealing with the consequences and the results of that civil war. It was bad. It started this whole thing about the blood diamonds, which are diamonds that are sold by the government and other people to finance wars. And so now you have to show where diamonds came from, so that they know they're not from they're conflict diamonds is what they're called, so that they know that they're not from places that are in conflict. They tried to do that. It didn't work real well, but that's where that came from. Okay? It's from this town. This next picture, that's Fiona. Fiona runs the Rainbow Restaurant. And that was the only place we ate outside of the hotel would do breakfast, but nothing else. Fiona was great. She was there for lunch. She was there for dinner 7 days a week. All the time. She was wonderful. By the time I'd been there 3 or 4 days, she knew what I wouldn't eat. And, because there's things, let me explain about when you go over there to eat. You don't eat fresh vegetables. Okay? You don't eat anything raw. Okay? You can eat vegetables if they're cooked, but you don't eat anything raw because of the water. Okay? Because the water, you don't drink the water either. The water is not fit to drink. It's contaminated, and they're used to it. It doesn't bother them. But if you drink it, you will remember that you drank it. Okay, and you will remember not to do it again. But so, like on my sandwiches, I wouldn't get lettuce or tomatoes or anything like that. I don't like ketchup. Okay, I just don't like it. And so she knew whatever I got, none of that stuff. And she would replace it with something else. Dinner was very, very expensive over there. Me and John and Micah, we ate dinner the first night. I think between the three of us, it was about $3.30 or so. Yeah. Their currency they're called leones, and they just, I guess in the last couple of years, they reissued leones so that the highest denomination that they have is 20, is a 20, okay? And, dinner's 1,800 or something like that, leones, and so you're peeling off, like this, paying for the hotel, it was stacks and stacks of leones. They refuse to print anything bigger than a 20 because they're afraid it will cause inflation, like the denomination of the bills causes inflation. But I came home with, how much? What was it? It was like 4,500? 4,500 leones, and it's a stack like this of bills. And it's worth like, what, $10 or something. And so, anyway, that was the restaurant. And she can cook. I'm telling you, this lady can cook. But she's there all the time. So then I was leaving for Nigeria here at the airport. And I was supposed to leave. I I forget what time. It was about 11 o'clock at night. I was supposed to leave. And we went to the airport. You have to get there really early, like 5 hours early, because it's chaos. But so I got there 5 hours early, and it made it so that they could get back to Koinu City. They could start back at least before it got dark, because it was dark and it was raining. It rained every day. This is the rainy season over there, so it rains constantly, off and on. I was supposed to get into Nigeria at 3:40, and I got in. It was after 5 in the morning when I got there. And so John had flown from Liberia back to Lagos in Nigeria, and he got in about a little before 1 o'clock. So he had to sit there and wait for me at the airport for 4 hours. And then we had a 2-hour drive up to Ibadan, which is where we stayed. Ibadan was not the second place that we taught. The second place that we taught was Apomu, Nigeria. And this is their 5th session. And so it's about a 45-minute drive from Ibadan, but there's no place to stay in Apomu. It's a big place, but there's no place for someone who's not African to stay. And so we stayed in Ibadan and drove 45 minutes to get there each day and 45 minutes to get back. This is the church in Apomu that we taught at. It's an Anglican church. It's a very old church. It was established originally in 1893. John's family gave the land and the church to the church. John, I need to probably explain to y'all that John is a Nigerian prince. Okay? And I know everybody goes, yeah, a Nigerian prince, they just want your money. No, John really is a Nigerian prince. His father was king. King is like over a certain area. It's like being mayor, okay? Except that it comes with a lot more power than being mayor, because you are king. And John will be king once everything is settled. His father passed away a couple of years ago, and there's been this power struggle in the family, but not with his brothers, but with cousins. And so once it's all resolved, John will be the king there. This was my second trip to Apomu. And so we were teaching there, and I was teaching Systematic Theology 2, which is Christ and man, the doctrine of Christ and the doctrine of man. And here, I don't know if you can see him, but I've got an interpreter over here, because in Apomu, I have to use an interpreter. They supposedly speak English. Nigeria is an English nation, and they don't, most of them, at least in Apomu, most of them, they speak English, but they're much more comfortable in their tribal language. I think it's Yubara is their tribal language. They live streamed part of it. That's what the camera there is. The fun part in teaching the doctrine of Christ is trying to explain how Jesus could be one person with two natures, with both a divine and a human nature, all in one. And so it's always interesting to do that. You do it in a couple of different ways, and I came up with another way while I was there, is talking about water inside of a jar, okay, and you can pour oil into it, and it doesn't matter what you do, they'll stay separate, even though they're both inside the one bottle, which is the person, but the two natures never mix, even though they're both in there, and it's still all oil, and it's still all, anyway. That in Tertullian has an example from way back about, I got to remember which one it is. Possessions, because it caused some problems. Possessions are substances in Greek. So a person can own two substances. You can own a goat and you can own a well, or you can own a goat and you can own a house. Okay, those are the two substances, the two natures, even though one person has them. Okay? And so trying to explain that, it's a very complicated idea. And, just when you think about it, think about how you could explain how Jesus could have two natures, be completely man, completely God, and one person. Very difficult. Okay, John, I taught systematic theology 2. John taught systematic theology 1. Okay, he didn't need an interpreter because John was born in Apomu. Okay, that's where his dad's house was, and the palace, the current regent, the guy who is there right now, is there as well. And that's where John will eventually be, except he's not going to live there, which is weird that you can be the king and not live there. Anyway, so he was teaching systematic theology 1, which is God and the Trinity, the doctrine of God and the doctrine of the Trinity. They're not supposed to be taught at the same time, okay, because it's too confusing. It's too much stuff at one time. But things got messed up with their sequencing a couple of times ago, and so it ended up that way this time. The one thing that makes it really messed up is at some point you have to try to explain the Trinity, which is the opposite of Jesus. Jesus is one person with two natures, okay, two substances, whereas the Trinity is three persons with one substance. And so it's very, very confusing trying to keep them straight. It was confusing for John as well, trying to keep it straight. So we end up helping each other a lot. Okay, usually when we're teaching, we find a way to break people up in groups. Go ahead. And this is them, one of the groups. I just picked one of the pictures. We would put them together, give them an assignment. Each group had a different part of the assignment, and then go ahead, and then they would come back and they would report their findings. This next picture is a picture, that's John on the left. I'm in the middle, and that's Stephen on the right. Stephen is the chair of the council in Apomu. So, and the next picture, everybody wants pictures. Okay, everybody wants a picture. We finish teaching, and then we spend 30, 45 minutes, an hour taking pictures with every person, every day. Okay, and so that's just what they do. And so you've got pictures after class every day. This next one is a group picture outside of the church. Like I said, we had 61 people there in Apomu that went through the class, and it was great. And not only did I teach in Apomu, go ahead, but I also preached in Apomu last Sunday morning. This is the church that I preached at. It's a church start that John started. This was his father's house back before his father passed away. And they've taken what was the driveway and they've covered it and turned the whole building and the driveway into a church. And so that's where I was preaching Sunday morning. Here we see John. He's encouraging the congregation. Next picture. He was encouraging the congregation. I don't know what he was encouraging them with because it was in the tribal language. But just something for y'all to know, they were baptizing 5 people this Sunday. So earlier today, they baptized 5 people, which is great. They've got some land for a new church to build a building. And I don't know how well you can see this, but you see this guy carrying this concrete block on his head. Okay, there's this place. It's down, and you'll see a picture of it in a minute. It's like a little jungle, but apparently, what they're doing is down in the bottom, they're casting all of these bricks, and then they carry them up the hill. They'll carry 1 or 2 and put some on their head and come up, and they're just stacking them up there to build a wall. And if you go ahead to the next picture, you can see that they're starting to get the wall started there. Their property goes all the way back to this building back here and this building over here. It's a little over 4 acres that they're going to build this church on. So they're going to move from this carport to this place that's 4 acres, and I don't know how much they're going to have to spend to level the land. Go ahead, because the land is a jungle. It is a jungle, and it is like this. Over here on this picture, this part you can't see, over here, it's a swamp. Yeah, it's nasty. It's just, anyway. So they're going to have to clear all of this out. And the reason that they have to build this wall right now is because of squatters. People will come in and they will just take over the land. And then you can't get rid of them. Once they're there, they're there. And there's nothing that you can do. Even though the land belongs to John's family, there's nothing that you can do about it. So they're building this wall around it to keep people from squatting there. And this next picture gives you a kind of an idea. This is the same property. There's the wall right there that they're working on. And the property goes all the way back into there. And then this next picture, I don't know how well you can see, but this is overlooking Apomu from the hill there on the way to the church. And I tried to get a good picture of it so you can see how big Apomu is, because Apomu is a big place. It's probably 200,000, 300,000 people. And you wouldn't know it by driving around it. The third location that we taught at was Ibadan. And this is my second trip to Ibadan. This is their second session. Again, go ahead. You've got the sign. Everybody makes a sign over there. Say, oh, look who's here. And then this is the church that I taught at. It's a very, very nice church. It's the same place that we taught at last time. I'm concerned about this location. I don't know if it's going to make it or not, because we're supposed to have 50 students in order to keep going. And last time we were there, we had 35. But it was their first time, and a lot of times the first one is small or smaller, and then it grows. This time we had 26 on Monday, we had 21 on Tuesday, we had 25 on Wednesday, and so I don't know if this one's going to make it. The people who are there want to be there, okay, but I just don't know. The council has a lot of problems. Matter of fact, the first day, we didn't get started. We're supposed to start at 8 o'clock. Never, ever do you start at 8 o'clock. Okay, 9 o'clock if you're lucky. We started at 12:30. I sat there in the dark in the church for 3 hours waiting. When I got there, there were 3 people. And so we waited until people showed up. And then we had 26 by the time we got going good. But we're supposed to teach for between 12 and 15 hours for each class. And there, I think I taught 8 hours because we never started close to on time. And then they would decide it's time to leave at 4, whether we were finished or not. And so they go, okay, yeah, okay, this guy right here is, he wasn't part of the council before, but he was actually one of the original people to bring World Hope into Nigeria back in 2013. He brought World Hope in, and then nothing ended up happening, but he's a professor at the university. He got his bachelor's degree there in Nigeria, then he came to the United States, went to seminary, got his MDiv, and then he got a PhD, and he was back teaching. And he's just the most encouraging guy, great guy, really great guy. He's now part of their council. Part of what we did while we were there, since they were so dysfunctional, is we threw out the council and put together a new council for them. We're also going to be moving to a different location that they say is going to help bring in more people. We'll see. We'll see. This is the pastor of the church there where we're teaching. This is a very nice church. I mean, they've got a video wall. I mean, it's really a nice place. Go ahead. This was John teaching. He was teaching expository preaching. here, and I was teaching ecclesiology, which is the doctrine of the church. And so that's fine. And then this is, like I said, we break them up into groups, and then go ahead, they come and they present their findings of the group. It was funny because when John was teaching, the thing where you break it up in groups on their class notes, it tells them what the answer is supposed to be. Okay, so they all went to these groups and they spent 30 minutes working all this stuff, and lo and behold, what they came back with was word for word what was on that piece of paper. The question comes up, why do we do this? Why do we go to these places? Why are we concerned about what's going on over in Africa? And there's three reasons, really, at least three reasons why we do this. Go ahead. And the first is that Jesus told us to do this. This is our commission. This is part of our commission. Jesus said, all authority has been given to me. Therefore, because of that, go and make disciples of all the nations. Okay? As you're going, make disciples of all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always, even to the end of the age. Teaching them everything I have commanded you. We're not going and trying to make converts. That's not why I go. I go to teach pastors. I go to correct theology. I go to encourage these pastors, because if you know anything about African theology, you know that it can a lot of times be really, really warped. It is really bad. There's a lot of syncretism with the tribal tribal religions. There's the prosperity gospel is just rampant over there. They think they invented the prosperity gospel, but I have to tell them, no, it came from us to you, and we're very, very sorry. But everybody that you see on TV is a prosperity gospel preacher. They have churches over there that teach the prosperity gospel that they're the size of cities. There's churches over there that go for 10, 12 square miles. It's just amazing. And we're trying to teach these guys. Most of them that we teach are not into the prosperity gospel, but they need to know what right theology is. What does the Bible say? Not what does Bill say, not what does World Hope say, what does the Bible say? It's always go back to the Bible, go back to the Bible. So we are commanded to go and to teach. Okay? And the other question is, how else are they going to learn? How else are they going to learn if we don't go teach them? Because what they're being taught by the people who are there is wrong. And so that's what they're learning. And so we go to teach, because there's no other way that they can do it. And the third is to teach correct bad theology. Okay. I've been doing this for a while. I've been doing it. Go ahead. I've been doing it for 8 years now. And these are some of the countries, or most of the countries, that I've been to in Africa. I've been to, well, this is some of them. This is in Central Africa: Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ghana, Benin, Nigeria, Cameroon. Go ahead. South Africa. I've taught in Zambia and in South Africa. Go ahead. I've taught in Guyana in South America. Go ahead. And in Haiti. There in the Caribbean. So I've been to 10 different countries. I've taught in 20 different locations over the 8 years. And it's just been a blessing to be able to go. And I thank you for supporting me in letting me go. Everybody who, like I said earlier, who stood in and did things while I was gone, thank you so much. And thank you also for your prayers. I really needed them, because coming home, I never did have a picture of me coming home. Coming home was iffy. It was iffy. I came home on Thursday. I was supposed to leave at noon. I'll get to that in a minute. Thursday, they were calling for nationwide protests in Nigeria. And the people are they're upset about their living conditions or whatever, even though Nigeria is by far the richest nation in Africa. It is just amazing. They have so much more than everybody else in Africa, but all they look at is the United States. They want to be like the United States. Well, you probably won't be, because you were founded totally differently than the United, but that's neither here nor there. And so there were all these protests that were planned, and we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get to the airport. Because one of the things that they do when they have these protests, they shut down the road to the airport. And so I did not know if I was going to be able to get home. And so I started trying to find a flight out on Wednesday night. And there just were nothing was available, because apparently everybody else decided they wanted to leave Wednesday also. I could get a seat. There was one or two seats available, but it was going to cost me $5,000 to get one of those seats. And it's like, no, I'm just going to leave it up to God. And Susan told y'all about it, and y'all were praying for me, and I really appreciate it. We left at 5 o'clock in the morning to go down to Lagos, where the airport is. We went through 3 or 4 police checkpoints to get there. We got on the plane. I managed to get there, and I was 5-6 hours early, but that way John could get back to Ibadan, because that's where he stays when he's there, because he's Nigerian. He has a home there. And so he needed to get back home before all of the protests started, because we figured nobody's going to be out protesting at 7 o'clock in the morning, okay? Especially on the first day. It's going to take them longer than that to get organized. But he made it back beforehand. Fortunately, from Ibadan down to Nigeria, there was very little problems, very, very small problems. The northern part of Nigeria was horrible. Okay, the police were shooting people. They were shooting each other. 13 people died on Thursday up in the northern states of Nigeria. Fortunately, we were in the south, and there weren't that many problems. But I got on the plane, and I sat on the plane for 3 hours until the plane took off, because they had some kind of a problem. Every flight, every single flight that I was on for this whole trip, there was some kind of a problem. And by the time it got to Thursday, and it's like, God, I just don't want this to be the one that they miss, and they don't fix, and I don't get home. But I got home and made it to Atlanta, and then my flight from Atlanta to San Antonio was delayed for an hour as well. So poor Susan, she had to pick me up it was about 1:30 in the morning when I got home. But I told you there were 2 reasons that we do this. And the first was we're commanded to do it. And the second one is this verse out of 2 Timothy chapter 2. Paul tells Timothy, he says, "And the things you've heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable men who will also be qualified to teach others." And that's what we do. And that's what World Hope does. That is our mission statement, and that is how we arrange things. When we go teach, we do things in a way that it is reproducible by the local people, so that we do nothing that they can't do. We don't take stuff that you need electronics for. We don't take food to them anymore. We learned our lesson on that. Everything that we do over there, they can turn around after they graduate. They can turn around and start an institute to teach locally without people having to come from America all the time. And it worked great during COVID. World Hope kept on going exactly the way it was designed during COVID. The local pastors were teaching local institutes, and the ministry grew during COVID. We're now in 55 different countries throughout the world, with thousands of students who've graduated. So it's been a blessing for me to do this for the past 8 years, and if y'all will allow me to, I will continue to do it because I love to go and I love to teach these pastors. They are so on fire for the Lord, they just need to be pointed into the right direction so that what they're teaching is correct. Thank you again for your support, the monetary support. Thank you for that. Thank you for your prayers. I need that more than anything, because we're over there and sometimes we're in places that are not exactly the best places in the world. I've been places where I've had to have armed guards with me all the time. And so continue to pray. Continue to pray for the pastors over there. They're trying to do the right thing. They really want to do what God tells them to do, the way that God tells them to do it. But they need training in order to do it.